Well, good day, everyone. It's the Two Ordinary Cops, and we are live. Well, not quite live, but we're on yet again.
Live?
Well, we've only done one live show, I suppose,
Yeah.
but mate, we've got an exciting night tonight. This is the first time we've actually gone across the
That,
borders.
the Two Ordinary Cops have gone international, Schultzy.
That's right.
They've finally gone
Exactly.
international. Yeah, so obviously we've spoken to quite a few guys in New Zealand, but we haven't had anyone on yet. We've obviously spoken quite a bit with Queensland Police, guys from around Australia. But tonight we have Inspector Ben Dimmock from the Bedfordshire Police in the UK. Ben, welcome.
Oh, lovely to see you guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, great. This is a bit of a thrill for us. We didn't think we had that much reach, really, but it's great to see that guys in the UK are speaking to us as well. Because I don't know what your thoughts on it are, but policing is policing. First world country policing, I should say, is policing. So the similarities, I know that we probably have a far more British police in Australia than you would have former Australian police in the UK. I'm not sure. There probably are a couple, but we do have a lot of ex-British police over here in Australia. So I'm quite familiar with British police, and it would be great. We'll hear your story and all the rest. But can I just say the one thing that I think the British police do brilliantly is de-escalation. I think there's something about police from the UK, and I'm sorry about the accent, but it's all right, love. We had a fella from Yorkshire who was just great. It's all right, love. Just step back. It's no problem. We'll take care of that for you, love. And he
Very
was
good.
just,
Very good.
It was a very calming, very human, very interactive policing. And that was one thing that I think across the jurisdictions in Australia, we have that opinion of police from the UK. So it's quite a positive thing. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. I think I've heard that a lot, and I think that's one thing in the UK. You're right that we try and use our mouth as opposed to anything else for as the first point of trying de-escalation, and it does work. Showing that kindness, that care, that compassion, and just trying to de-escalate, it can solve a lot of problems, and that's what we try and do. And I think it does. It fixes a lot of things before it escalates and gets serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. We all obviously need to do that, and that's what everyone's trained to do, and that's what everyone does do, especially places that are quite volatile.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the way British police went about themselves. It was very endearing. I think the accent being slightly different too, but something that's very familiar. Like it's a very familiar accent, the British accent, be it wherever from, north, south, east. It's still a very familiar accent to Australians. So, I really enjoyed working with my colleagues who are ex-British police, and actually a former Northern Territory police officer who's ex-British Army, then ex-Metropolitan Police. I think he's current serving Northern Territory Police. He, on my birthday, he made me an honorary member of the Metropolitan Police. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, I have no authority whatsoever in London, but I was happy with that. So, yeah.
Love that. Love that.
So, Ben, so good that you've come on board. Excellent that you are able to join us. What we want to go through, if you're just happy to explain your career, where you work, go through in chronological order if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
And just let our listeners know what you're up to.
Great. So I'm a current serving inspector. I think the rank structure, is it fairly similar in Australia? So PC, sergeant, inspector, upwards. So yeah, so I've got to inspect. So I've been in 24 years now. Started as a patrol response officer, went into being a tutor. And then from there, I kind of wanted to be a detective. It was kind of always my goal. I wanted to be a detective. So I went into the world of CID and crime and trained as a detective, and did that for a few years before kind of having a bit of a kind of passion then for undercover covert policing. Went into to be I don't know if they call it where you are. We call it a chiz handler, covert, looking after police informants. So I did that for a while, and then worked in counter-terrorism at the airport, what was called Special Branch back then, and then got promoted, sergeant, and then very much went into the community type world and was a crime reduction community sergeant, licensing, working with schools and social behaviour, and then offender management. I was offender management sergeant. looked after serious sex offenders, prolific offenders, and then promoted to inspector. And obviously, word of inspector is a little bit more strategic, and I'm looking after student officer pathways, attraction, engagement, recruitment. And then for the last 4 years, which is the highlight of my career, I've been the force wellbeing lead. So we've got a dedicated wellbeing team in Bedfordshire Police, probably one of the largest in the country, I think. And we've got a team purely dedicated to looking after officers and staff for their wellbeing. So I'm the force inspector for that wellbeing team. That's my full-time job, and the force wellbeing lead. So I'm so proud. It's one of the best role I could imagine, and I'm so proud to do it.
Yeah,
that's my career to date.
Yeah. So that the wellbeing, I'd like to touch on that a bit later on, if you don't mind, because that's obviously something we're passionate about as well. That wellbeing side of things. But just for our Australian and New Zealand listeners as well, can you just explain your jurisdiction, Bedfordshire Police, your geographic location, numbers, population, things like that?
Yeah, we're really well. So there's 43 police forces in the UK, England and Wales. We're probably one of the smallest. I think we're about 40th smallest in the country. So really small. It's a small county. It's a bit rural and urban. We've got a major motorway going through us. We've got an international airport. We've got a lot of county lines, drugs coming in from London, coming into Bedfordshire. There's previously been links to terrorism coming into Bedfordshire. So it's a very small county with some huge challenges. And we are only, we've only got, say, up to 2,000 police officers, maybe we're hitting now, and another 1,000 staff. So it's small comparative to a lot of forces. And I don't like yourselves, maybe we have a lot of resourcing challenges. We're always short on resources now. And when you look at our frontline teams, your patrol officers, response cops, they are, they're often parading on now with like 5, and it should be like 30 on a team. But I've taken over and I've covered as an inspector on these patrol teams occasionally, and I'm absolutely shocked by some of the number levels I see. When you look at abstractions as well, with hospital watches, scene guards, various other abstractions, those actually going out to patrol in an area, unbelievable. And I think, how have we got to this point? So yeah, small county, huge challenges.
Yeah. So Ben, going back, obviously you said you joined 24 years ago. Can you tell me the changes you've seen since joining in 2002 to now, not just with the police itself, like not just the organisation, but society in the UK?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think probably the same with you guys. It's massively changed, but I think probably one of the key things I've seen now is social media. Back when I joined, everything you did wasn't filmed. Everything you do, someone's got a phone in your face. Next thing you know, you're uploaded on YouTube, you upload on TikTok, on Instagram, everything you do. So, every policing operation I work, every major incident, critical incident we're involved in, everything you find yourself, or a police officer finds himself on social media. And that in itself is a huge pressure to our guys and girls out there, because they're just trying to do the best they can do. But yet the scrutiny is immense. And I think now, again, that's the thing, it's the scrutiny. I think back when I joined, it wasn't as intrusive, the scrutiny we had. Absolutely rightly so. We do, as police officers, need to have that public scrutiny. But I think now more than ever, and I was talking to Schultzy earlier, that, it's, I think the problem is with social media, police officers, we're in that environment, that occupation, that as soon as one person does something wrong, we're all tarnished with the same brush.
Yeah.
And everywhere you get on social media where a cop's done something wrong, absolutely they need to be investigated. Action needs to be taken if they're guilty of that. But unfortunately, the public then see us all in the same boat. And I think that's again causes that immense pressure on our police officers, because they're just trying to, you think 99% of our police officers, the guys and girls, go out there to make a difference and do an incredible job. But that 1% who, unfortunately, are your bad eggs, they ruin it for the rest of us. And that's what I always say to people in the public, is that just think of all the people that our police officers get cancelled rest days, that are working beyond there, that are literally going to the worst jobs that you can ever imagine. Just before you hit the comment button on social media, just think of how they haven't seen their families, how many cancelled rest days, how burnt out and exhausted they are, how they've just had to deliver a message to a parent that the child's died, or they've just attended 2 suicides, or they've just been assaulted and spat at and they haven't eaten or drunk today. But it's just care and kindness, and that's what I always say now. So I think, going back to your original question, I think, yeah, policing has changed. Is it harder? I often say, is it harder? And I do reflect and think, yeah, we had some horrible jobs back then. But I think, and hopefully we'll talk about it later, but I think now trauma, when you look at trauma and officers and what they're subjected to back then, and you guys would be interested what your thoughts are, we were just expected just to get on with it. And there was a real kind of, well, no, that's a part of the job. But now, and certainly with the introduction of my team as a wellbeing team, we're kind of saying, no, actually, we're human. Just because we wear a uniform, it's all right to say that job was really hard. I struggle with that today, and I'm not okay with that. And that's right. If we want to build healthy, sustainable officers having good careers ahead of them, we need to tell them it's okay to say that job didn't sit right with me and that I need a bit of help with that. So I think we're breaking through the stigma. We've come on a massive amount to where we used to be. We've still got some work to do, but now, when I look at my team now, we do at least 80 to 100 welfare interventions with our officers a month. That's 80 to 100 officers coming to us saying, I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. Now, people might think, that's awful, but that's a good thing, that people are reaching out and saying, I need some help. And then we are preventing people going off sick. We are preventing people leaving the organisation. We're giving them the support and the care they need to be able to go out again and do the job. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's something, a really good analogy I've only heard very recently was there's a medic's tent on the side at a rugby carnival, all right, because people are expected to get bumps and grazes and things like that, and they'll go over and just see the medic tent and get a Band-Aid or get a bandage or something similar, treat those minor injuries.
Yeah.
To me, policing is a mental health rugby ground. You're going to get bumps and bruises, mental health bumps and bruises. You're also going to catastrophically break your femur as well, mentally, if you get my analogy. So having the medic tent there makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
and I actually think you're further along than a lot of Australian police forces and services. I think, of course, mental health is a big thing over here, and it's obviously far better than it was. I actually think it wasn't terrible when we joined. It was a long way from what it is now, but there's not that active. Here are police officers who solely do this job to a level that's probably expected. I think you guys might actually be down a little bit further along the line there than we are.
I think we'll get there, and that's why it's good that that we are sharing stories like this, because I think back now. I was really poorly with depression about 12 years ago, and it was a bit of I think now reflecting, it was a bit of cumulative build-up of trauma from the job, also some personal things going on in my life. But I had to hide it then, and because of fear. And when I opened up about my story, people said to me, Ben, that's career suicide. You're never going to get promoted. But then I'm now the wellbeing lead for the force. So that's absolute rubbish. But I think we have moved on. But having a dedicated team that can be there, I mean, we've just had some horrific incidents in Bedfordshire. We had a police shooting, which I know it might seem in other places like Australia, America happens all the time potentially, but very rare in England. We had a police officer have to shoot someone. We've had a horrendous train crash with multiple casualties. We've had a triple murder. We've had some horrible, horrible jobs, and a lot of our officers have been really badly affected by it over the last few weeks. You add into that cancelled rest days, extractions for operations and different things that they've also got to do. They've got to stay on and do overtime. Everybody's got things going on in their own life. These officers are literally burnt out. But I'm so, and it's probably the same. We do the job, and we go to these jobs, and then we go home, and we go to sleep, and we put our uniform on, and we go over and do it all again. Yeah. But because we're proud and we do what we do, because we've got to be cops and we love what we do. But we can't underestimate the trauma and the impact that the job has on us. So having those avenues of support is vital, really is.
Absolutely. It's funny you mention that, because the similarities are just, it's identical. It really is. Where we were, Schultzy and I, police shootings were also extremely rare. We had lots of violence, lots of police assaults, but when it came to application of deadly force by police, it was extraordinarily rare in the Northern Territory. Eastern states, it's rare, but it's far more common than it is where we were. But everything you're saying is just so familiar. It's like,
it's the same, isn't it? Like you said, policing is the same.
Yeah.
Thousands of miles away, but policing is the same. It really is the same, just with some little differences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, one of the things, we'll just backtrack a little bit, Ben, and we spoke about a little bit beforehand, like public perception on the police.
Yeah.
I know in Australia it's probably not so bad unless they're criminals, of course. I know, people still buy a coffee for the police if they see them down at the local coffee shop and all that sort of thing. But, mate, can you just go through what it's like in England?
Yeah, I think it's really mixed. I think, like I said earlier, it just takes one story to hit the press, and then the public perception changes just like that. And that's what the real sad disappointment for me is. Like I said, I wish the public knew that 99% of people are going out doing an incredible job under really difficult circumstances, and that one person has obviously, tarnished us. So that's one thing. So, but then I see some incredible, wonderful things where, we're out to jobs, and we've had a big festival in Bedfordshire over the weekend. It's called Bedford River Festival. Oh, thousands of people come. The amount of people that come up to us and say, "Thank you so much for everything you're doing to protect us," and that's wonderful, and that really, really gets you, because you think actually the majority of people do love what we do, and they do know what we do matters. But then, I think everywhere you're going to get a small amount of people that go, "I hate the police," and I think we just take that. But who are they? Who are the first ones to call us when they need something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the criminals. They're the first ones to call us. So
especially the criminals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can be haters, but you're still going to call us.
That's right. And I think it's one thing I always say. Never listen to the loudest minority, because they're the ones that jump up and down and scream and all that sort of thing. The general public, who just stay quiet, actually do respect and like the police.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Like the one thing you said earlier about talking about using your mouth and de-escalation and all the rest of it, I think, of course, that's where police start. That's where everyone. I'm talking Western countries here, so every first world country. I understand that there are militant police forces in third world and second world countries that are bad. I understand that. In first world democracies, modern day. It is obvious that use of force is obviously a last resort. I know that we took policing from Sir Robert Peel. Our policing concept is exactly this. It is taken from the UK. Our first police in Australia were British military, actually. The first police over here were actually British convicts. So it was the British military, but they were British convicts. So basically the best behaved crooks were the cops.
Yeah,
so that's how it was. So
can you imagine that now?
That probably worked quite well. So obviously we start with de-escalation, and that's a common theme. What people need to realise is that my observation, and correct me if I'm wrong, and obviously I haven't been to the UK for a very long time, but de-escalation is our first port of call, but it does not solve all problems. There is a reason that especially Australian police carry firearms routinely, and I understand there are authorised firearms officers in the UK.
Yeah.
There is a reason for that. Do you want to sort of touch on that a little bit with use of force philosophies in the UK?
I think, like you've hit the nail on the head. I think no force, whether you carry a firearm or not. No one wants to use that firearm. We carry PPE, we carry equipment, a baton, we parva spray in the UK, and no one goes out thinking I'm going to use that. We want to communicate using our mouth, using all the techniques we can do to de-escalate something. But unfortunately, we all know it gets to a point where the mouth is just not working and the de-escalation is not working. And as long as you feel comfortable and justified, and if you've got to then up that level of force to deal with the situation, that's got to happen. But I don't think any police officer goes out every day going, I'm going to use my gun, I'm going to use my baton, I'm going to use my parva. But they are essential. They're essential. When you look at society now, there is unfortunately a real huge mental health crisis in the UK. And unfortunately, there are a lot of, let's be honest, there are a lot of real horrible people out there now that want to cause harm. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, with drink, alcohol, with drugs, de-escalation with the mouth sometimes is not going to work. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we do have to use that, and we have to lift that force. So again, I don't think any of us want to ever do that, but that's why we're trained to do it. So I think, and providing that use of force is justified, it's reasonable, given the circumstances. Like we always say to every police officer when they go out on an operation, it's your call. It's your call. As long as it's proportionate, reasonable, justified, then, and you put that in your statement, if you have to use that force, then everyone's going to back you for that. But again, as long as it's reasonable, proportionate, justified, given the circumstances.
Yeah.
Sorry, Schultzy, you go.
Yeah, Ben. Like one thing that I suppose kind of really got me, especially towards the end of my career, when we started, we were lucky enough to get some really seasoned officers training us. Straight out of the college. I think my first one was 10 years in the job. So very experienced, especially from the Northern Territory. And what I saw later on was a lot of, now I think they've got even a lot of probies working together. So they don't get that leadership, they don't get that support. They don't know how to justify themselves as well as what an older cop does, being experienced and all that sort of thing. Do you see the same thing in the UK, like starting to come through with all the attrition problems and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think there are. It's tricky. I think are you talking about more recruitment?
So basically, when they come out of the college, have they got really experienced people training them?
I think it's a really tricky one. I'm not saying it's the same with every force, but training school only really you get your basic law knowledge, don't you? You get your law knowledge. You get how to your self-defense training, how to use your PPE kit. The real learning starts when you get out.
Yeah.
And then obviously when our students have gone through the training school, then they're tutored for a period of time. We've seen, unfortunately, situations when students are being tutored, or there's one tutor to 3 students, and that's tricky. How can that work? How can that student effectively learn when there's like one tutor, 3 students? So we are seeing students come through, and I don't think they're fully prepared. They're not fully prepped, and then they're up against it as soon as they sort of hit the streets. But I don't know. I still see some incredible people going out there, but I also see some incredibly young people. Yeah, we're talking 18, 19-year-olds that are coming through now. When you guys, when I joined, in my cohort, we had a real mixture of ages, of backgrounds, military backgrounds, teachers, all different things from different walks of life. Now, they've just left school. Yeah, they've had no life experience. They're still living with their mum and dad. They've had no life experience. And we are expecting them to then see the worst bits of society. We're expecting them to go to, like we talked about, suicides, the most violent, distressing, awful things, sudden deaths, being assaulted, spat at, verbally abused, all the things that a police officer goes through on a daily basis. And we're saying that's not going to affect them. No. And this is where I bring this all the way back to. That is the new culture of policing. That this is who we're recruiting now. So then we have to change how we adapt to looking after them. So we become, the role of a tutor, the role of a sergeant. We become almost like a parent now.
Yeah.
Because we're having to look after these guys and girls more than we've ever had to do. So, and this is why I go back to the fact of well-being in policing is vital. It's not an if, it's a must. We must have well-being in everything we do in policing now, because we have to support these guys and girls, because we can't expect them just to leave school and then suddenly go into this environment without being affected by it.
Yeah.
We're not superhuman. So, yeah, that's why I'm so passionate. Everything, well-being, we can't just see well-being as a tick box. We can't just have it as a slogan, as a poster on the wall on the toilet. It's got to be, well-being has got to be in everything that we do. And that's why I'd always say as well, sergeants particularly, line managers are key. They are makers or breakers of someone's career. It's up to the supervisor. If you've got the stripes, you do the work. You do those check-ins. You've got to do those check-ins. You've got to do and recognise those early signs of burnout, stress, fatigue, anxiety in your cops, because they're your teams. So you are the key to making or breaking these guys and girls.
Yeah. Ben, one thing you mentioned there, sorry, Schultzy, I know you say recruiting 18 and 19-year-olds. Is that as the norm? Like your main intakes would be that kind of age group?
It is now. Yeah, it is now. So I don't know what it's like in where you guys are, but we've probably got 2 or 3 routes in now. We've got a normal kind of entry route that from any kind of background, but we've got a route in now that you can get a degree, an academic degree at the end of 3 years. So they are school leavers, then going in to do a degree. And also there's an intake for if you want to be a dedicated detective, so like a fast-track detective route in. But generally now, I see the majority of our intakes, they are 18 and 19-year-olds. And, and I just, I get, that's the way the world is going, but I do worry about it.
So the reason I don't like 18, 19, to me, that's far too young. And look, people go on about, well, hang on, you can join the military at 17. It's like, that's a whole different world. The military, you are very much very, very mentored, very looked after. Like this, do that. It's a very structured environment. You're not immediately sent out with one other person to deal with a very chaotic society.
Yeah.
You may be sent as a 30-person team to go into a combat zone, but you have lots of other people with you and there's lots of command and control over the top. So you can take lots younger people into a military environment. Civilian policing is not the military. It's nothing like the military. Okay, yeah, there are firearms around and there's use of force and there's similar briefing. The way we get briefings is similar. But when it comes down to that, police officers, to me, I was lucky enough. I joined at 24. Schultzy joined at 29. I thought 24 was really good. I had enough time under my belt out of school, living out of home, enough life experience to still be a young man who's relatively fit. Whereas, an 18, we had a 19-year-old. She was a very smart girl, 19-year-old girl on our course. Turned out to be an excellent. I think she was a bit of an exception. She was a Territorian, a bit knockabout, fairly mature for her age. But I know that at 19, I would not have been ready to do what we did immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you look at, I'll just take one thing, for example, look at domestic related incidents. If you that's probably bread and butter for our response cops going out to domestics. And you think an 18-year-old turning up to quite a heated domestic involving 2 partners, then how it's tricky, because what do they know? What life experience have they got? And the end. But they've got a job to do. But it's challenging. It's challenging.
Yeah.
So as a police service, we have to adapt to that.
Yeah.
We've got to adapt, and what that means is, I don't know, because they are having to grow up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
They have to grow up very, very quickly. But I do worry. What's the longevity of their careers? Because, as I said, without any life experience, without having anything to base your lived experiences on and link that to policing, is exceptionally tough. And this is what I am seeing this is what our guys and girls are struggling. I mean, we get daily sudden deaths, suicides weekly. So, and we are, and sometimes these guys and girls are going to multiple scenes like that. How can you then expect them just to keep going like nothing's happened? And I don't think we are, because that's why we're putting them into a situation where we've got a wellbeing team, where we've got peer support, where we've got trim, we've got trauma impact assessments and things like that. We can do them counselling. We give access to counselling as well, free counselling services. So we're throwing everything. We are throwing everything we can to wrap around those officers, but we're still exposing them every day.
Yeah.
So tough, really tough.
I think, like Ben, one of the reason I actually asked that question originally was, I know, like after I was in the job for about 4 or 5 years at this stage, and I went back on patrol after working in the family and domestic violence unit, and they asked me, there was a new recruit had just come out. They'd probably been, 3 months in the job, on the road, and he was ready to leave, just stressed out. Couldn't. He had so many investigations, couldn't take care of them. And it was probably poor mentoring from whoever he was working with to get that. And they put me with him and they said, can you help him through? A very bright and great police officer. And, mate, I just sat down and I said, all right. I said, first, we could work in the watch house. Let's work in the watch house for the first 4 shifts. I said, when we did 12-hour shifts back then, I said, let's go through every job. So we're not getting new jobs. You're not getting overloaded. We'll go through every job and we'll take care of your investigations. And I worked with him while in the watch house, getting that all sorted. And then I said, for the next 2 weeks after that, I said, I'll take every single job that comes in. So you can get yours done and get your head around it. And mate, after about a month, he was just loving it. And that's why it's so important. It reduces the stress, him, because it has such an impact. Like you said, they're dealing with these deaths, like bad domestics, all that sort of stuff, and yet they're still getting pressure about all the jobs they've got to clear without knowing how to write them up and all that sort of thing. So that's I think that's my main point there. We've all got to, I think, for me, peer support is key. Looking out for each other. We're all adults. We join policing for a reason, to care for people. But we've got to care for each other as well and look after each other. That's the most important thing. So I'd always say to people, look around your briefings. When you're briefing in the morning, look around and just check your teammates out. Is anybody a little bit out of character today? Is anybody not the same as they were? Look after the quiet ones and the loud ones, because that's the difference as well. But also then check in. Are you okay? Are you all right, mate? Yesterday was a really difficult shift. Are you all right? And then ask again, because you know what it's like. We all say, I'm fine. Yeah.
But actually, we all say, it's the default, isn't it? Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
But actually, because do you really want to listen to me if I go, no, actually, I'm not. I'm really not fine. And we're all busy, and that's the problem. We're all busy. We've all got phones. We've all got our emails. We've all got the radio. But if someone comes to you and that they are struggling, it's really important that we sit back and go, okay, forget my emails now, forget my phone. You sit and you listen, because that might be the biggest difference to saving someone. Yeah. And it really is. It could be life-saving.
Absolutely. We've got a saying over here. It's the "Are you okay?" I think it's a pretty well global thing, but the big thing is it's all well and good to ask that question, especially as supervisors. Back in my day as a supervisor, you need to be ready for someone to go, no, I'm not okay. So it's not, are you okay? Yeah, I've asked the question. No, these guys aren't. What do we do then? Which brings me to my next point a little bit, because don't get me wrong, I'm all for dedicated wellbeing teams. I think that's excellent. To me, that should be an escalation point from your general chain of command. So to me, I like to think of a police force as a very salty ocean. It should be salty. when you bring recruits in, you're pouring fresh water into that salt. That fresh water will generate salt as it gets further and further into the job. But one major problem that the Northern Territory Police had after a fatal police shooting, which, as I said, very rare in the NT, where there was race involved, it was all these kind of issues. There was a feeling within the rank and file from we don't just have PC, we have levels of constables. So we have constables, senior constable. So that senior constable to your senior sergeant ranks, we have another rank above sergeant that's still an enlisted or still non-commissioned. Yeah. That is what we call your SALT. They are the salty on the road, been there, done that, show the guys how to do the job, check the quality, and then the commissioned officers lead the strategic direction. Yeah. So what happened was there was a massive drain of their SALT. So we lost all that middle management really quickly. I'm talking up 200 members out of a force of 1,400 at that time, which is a massive depletion of that skill set. And I don't know, I want to get your thoughts on that. It's not just recruitment. It's not who we're bringing into the organisation, because that kind of is what it is. There's always going to be people join from all walks of life. But it's the retention of your SALT, keeping those old heads. You need those people in that force.
Yeah, great question. Just to try and unpick a little bit of that, I think, so for me, I think I said earlier, supervisors are key. We've got to look after our supervisors, but supervisors need to, it's like I said, well-being and leadership, they go hand in hand. Supervisors, do we give supervisors enough training? That's probably one of the biggest. We stick stripes on people, but do we actually give them the training that they actually really need to look after our people? I would say minimal. So that's an issue for me, but it's about culture. You know, when you're, I don't know what it's like. We've got a chief constable, that's the highest, the chief constable of the force. They set the culture. Then there's senior officers, your chief superintendents, chief inspector. They set it, but they have to set the culture to make an organisation what I would say psychologically safe. So psychological safety is key for me, because number one, for me, psychological safety is not just about people being allowed to say, I'm not okay with that and I'm struggling with that, but also allowed to say, I made a mistake and not be punished, in the wrong way. And that's the thing, we make mistakes. So the trouble is, we probably see it gets everywhere. Cops make mistakes, they hide it, and then you start lying, and then that's when you get in trouble massively with professional standards. But people are in fear of saying, I messed up. When we're human, people mess up all the time. We make mistakes. So I think where you've got all that, leaders, senior officers, sergeants, it's about they are the ones that create the environment, create that psychological safe environment to allow their officers to go, I'm not okay, or I made a mistake here. How are we going to get through it? And that's what makes a good supervisor. But we forget, we do forget our supervisors, and I look at sergeant rank in particular. I know it's slightly different with you guys probably, but with the various, senior constables, sergeants, etc. But our sergeants, they take on huge amounts, and inspectors, and we look after the PCs, but who looks after them? Who looks after the sergeants and inspectors? Because they're taking on everybody's problems. So so it's key that we look after all of them, and that's it comes down. That's where it comes down. Every rank needs to be looking after each other and looking after themselves as well.
Absolutely.
It's interesting you actually said that. I did a talk many years ago when I was in the force at one of the union conferences. And I said, the problem is a lot of the young guys were actually afraid to even make an arrest because they've been in trouble so many times for making a mistake. Because they didn't have that senior leadership there showing them how to do it right. The problem is then you get a police force that's standing back when they need to move forward. And whether that's force or whether that's de-escalation, doesn't matter. But the problem is they were actually so afraid of getting in trouble. They were hampered in doing their job. So
it's a really sorry.
No, you're right. What I was going to say there is you've actually segued beautifully, because we talk about operational trauma, which is policing the community, the bad shit that you see when you're just out policing the community. dead bodies, violence, threats against yourself, all the rest of it. Everyone sees that. The most common thing we hear over here, and I've got no doubt that you're going to tell me that's the same in the UK, is that I can handle the knives coming at my chest. I can't handle the knives coming at my back from blue uniforms. So it's that feeling, and you're the one who covered it. Psychological safety is a good way of summing it up. It can be that we acted in good faith. We were doing what we thought was the right thing to do. Why don't our executive leadership have the bravery to be able to stand, or the courage, I should say, to stand out there in the media and go, this is the situation. The matter is under investigation. We don't have all the answers yet. Obviously, it would be extremely inappropriate to mention anything that I'm not aware of right now. However, my preliminary view of this matter is that my members acted appropriately, and at this point in time, they certainly have my support. And then carry on. Tell the public, policing is an extremely difficult job. We have to make split-second decisions under duress in the face of danger. And if you have that support from the executive level leadership in the media on the 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock news, that would be a massive morale boost to the members straight away.
Yeah, I've seen that in a few forces. So I posted this recently on my LinkedIn profile. It's that 20 second rule. So what often happens now is that you'll see something happen, and a body cam footage will be posted of an incident. Like, oh, look at the cops! Look what they did! But what happened 20 seconds before that?
Yeah.
That is not what. That is what we need to get a grip of. Worldwide in policing, we need to stop this, because everyone, including the government and everybody, gets involved and says, "Oh my God, look what the cops doing! That's horrendous what they did." But did you see what happened 20 seconds before that? And this is where we've got to stop this, and where chiefs, like you said, chiefs need to come in early and go, "No, hold on a minute. I am more than satisfied that my officers did the right thing under those circumstances, and I fully support them." And I know it's very different to what you guys over there, but things like that happen. It gets referred to professional standards. It gets referred to the IOPC, the Independent, Police Complaints Authority. And then you've got officers then under investigation for months and years.
Oh.
And the toll and the pressure, and the pressure. The investigations, we haven't even touched on that, but the toll and the pressure the investigations then has on our officers is humongous. It's that 20-second rule. I did a post about it the other week, but it's really bugs me, and we haven't got this right.
Yeah, so I've seen this quite a few times. We've had police officers under investigation for some kind of complaint from. It could be justified complaint. Could be that they've actually done something wrong. Could be that it's a vexatious complaint and there's actually going to be a process to that. I used to say that if I was a child murdering pedophile, I would at least have a court date, whereas a police officer under investigation doesn't even have a court date. You will be notified when you are notified of the outcome of the investigation, and you're just treading on eggshells the whole time, waiting for that outcome. And it's like, we give due process to the worst offenders in society, but not to our police officers. It's just amazing.
I know. Yeah. It's really complex. And I have had a lot of conversations with our complaints team, professional standards, we call them over here, just around that. And I know there's complexities behind investigations. And when you look at a criminal aspect, you can't move that forward until... if you look at gross misconduct, you can't move that through until the criminal aspects, investigated. So there are lengthy things I get that. And PSDs, they're under immense stress and scrutiny as well. A lot of people will absolutely hammer the abuse at our professional standards teams, and people do, and they're under investigation. Who are you going to blame? Who are you going to shout at?
Of course.
But I wouldn't get into a debate around their work, because their work is very complex, very niche. But the length. But I don't think we'll all agree the length of investigations is unacceptable. If we treated the public the way that sometimes the length of investigation for our officers, what scrutiny would be under. There'd be uproar.
Yeah.
So yeah, something has to change massively in terms of the length of time for investigations, because this is what is happening around when we touch on officer suicides, which is another thing that I'm trying to do a lot of work around in force. I don't know what it's like in Australia and in those areas of your forces, but we've had a lot of press come out in the UK over the last few months, a significant number of officer suicides in the UK over the last couple of years, horrific number. And when you look at those officer suicide numbers, at least 2/3 of those were under investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But something is going wrong, and we have to act quickly and fast. And, you know, it's difficult. We touched on it earlier. You have got some cops that do some bad things.
Of course.
You know, and they need to be held to account, and they need to go to prison, or they need to be dealt with, whatever. Yeah. Absolutely get them out. But there's a lot of cops that are under investigation for some things that shouldn't have even made it to professional standards. Yeah. When we talk about line managers, and again, we talk about policing, it's exactly probably the same.
Identical.
A lot of things, why are they not being managed by line managers? Why are they getting referred to PSD at low level? They're low-level things that can be dealt with and managed by line managers. If you've got stripes, you've got pips, you're given the autonomy should be able to manage those things. Yeah. Too many things are sent to PSD, which then creates the complaint, the misconduct process. That process starts, and then we get into a wealth of months and months and months of investigation, which is something that potentially, I mean, of course, I'm speaking loosely because it depends on the complaint, but some things can, I'm sure, why are we putting that more pressure on PSDs when it could be dealt with in-house locally? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Actually, I got a funny one there, Ben. I think it was years ago. The senior sergeant came out and said, "Look, every time somebody says they want to make a complaint, you have to put a complaint in." Now that happens every single arrest or every single dealing with somebody that's unhappy with police. They always say, "I'm going to make a complaint," or what's your badge number? This, that, and the other. Anyway, people were jumping up and down a bit, and I said to the troops, I said, "Okay, let's do it." I said, "Every single person tonight on this night shift, let's put them all in." I wonder, you know how long that lasted? 24 hours. And then because I had so many, we just overloaded them. I said, well, that happens every night. So, break it down. Let's make this structured.
Yeah.
No, very cool. It's amazing. But this is not a surprise to me. I kind of knew this would be the conversation that we have. I don't know what familiarisation you have with our structures, the way that Australia policing works. Without even knowing it, you do know how we work because we work like the British, basically. Obviously, we're state by state, so we're a federation of states in Australia. So there are 8 jurisdictions, being we have an Australian Federal Police that across things like your terrorism, your Commonwealth offences.
Yeah.
And then we have independent states that have their own police forces. So we don't go down to county levels or anything like that. We don't call them counties. We call them shires, basically. There's the shires and council regions. But policing happens at a state level generally, unless you're committing Commonwealth offences, which are more your high-level international fraud, high-level international drug smuggling and terrorism is the federal police level. But what I love is that it's very, very similar, and the reason Australian policing was stolen from you guys, you literally, it's pick up, place there, so it's very similar there. But one thing we do, obviously, I love the fact we've touched on a few negative things and we've had a bit of a bitch as we do, but that's good because it shows we're all about problem solution here. What I love is that you're already part of a solution to these problems, a dedicated wellbeing team. What you've said about your line management and the duties of those people who are the supervisors of the guys on the road, your PCs. Just to clear up, the senior constable, they're a PC. They're just a senior PC.
Still experienced.
They're an experienced copper. That's all. That's that. Sergeant is your first supervisor.
They're talking about bringing that into the UK.
Yeah, there you go.
There's some talk about it at the moment. Yes, a senior constable rank. There is lots of talk about it at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. So that I love the fact that we're on the same point there, is that these line managers, like you say, I believe we could do more training for those sergeants. To get to sergeant, it could be that we go off. We did do a 2-week 1 week or 2 week. Geez, I did it a long time ago. I can't remember, but it was either a 1 or a 2 week course. But even to get on the sergeant's course, you're already quite an experienced copper, and you've got to your application has to be supported. You apply for the job, or you apply for the course to get the rank. We did have a rank at the time called Senior Constable First Class, which meant you were sergeant qualified, and then to actually get the promotion, you had to apply for and gain a promotional job, basically.
Yeah.
So a role somewhere in the police force at sergeant level would go promotional, and then your qualified people could apply for that. So there was a bit to it, but formal leadership training was some, but it wasn't an ongoing theme. And I think what we were on about there with the professional standards, we call it the same thing, Professional Standards Command, basically, PSC, not PSD. That there is always and should always be an escalation point. It's not where you start. And I think that's what we were getting wrong. And that should be right. You're not listening. You've been told we put you on what we used to a thing called a PIP, a performance improvement plan.
Development plan.
And that mightn't be that they're actually engaging in misconduct. It's more that they just don't get it. And they're not trying. They're not trying to improve. So from there, you could be escalated, but more so, normally gross misconduct is blindly obvious. It's this copper threatened to fight people, took his belt off and started punching him out in front of it. I'm sorry, mate, you're out. Like, that's obvious. It's very obvious. We had a guy in Alice Springs who was engaged in child abuse material. Well, that's pretty obvious too. There was no PSC involvement. The PSC involvement was you're suspended without pay, and the detectives are dealing with you, champ. So that was pretty basic. So I couldn't agree more there. But I'm really happy to hear that you've got a dedicated wellbeing team of sworn members. So it's your police officer.
2 officers. So I mean, me as an inspector, that's my full-time job. I do cover other duties as well. So I have to cover patrol. I have to, command operations. I'm a hostage and crisis negotiator. So I do other stuff in addition, but that's my full-time role. Then I have a sergeant that helps me, and I have 2 or 3 police constables I will have, and 2 police staff on the team. So we've got a good breadth of knowledge, and that will reach out to everybody. But just quickly, Damo, on the leadership, we do now. Been running for the last couple of years now. We do a leadership course now for all sergeants and inspectors, which is a week long, which covers all the leadership stuff. And there are operational courses now being run for sergeants, but this should have happened years ago. We're still playing. We're playing massive catch up in terms of how we support our leaders now, in terms of how, to manage day-to-day operational and leadership, issues. But we're getting there. We are getting there. I think we're just slow. That's what the problem is. We've been slow to do all this.
You might be quicker than us, mate. Might be something to do with the Northern Hemisphere. I'm not sure.
We could learn a thing or two, I think.
I'd say so, yeah. So, obviously, we have an opinion on what one of the most important characteristics, I should say, of a police officer is. And what I love about the British is you've got it in spades, and that is a good sense of humour. So I know that the British police they're Australian police. The former British police I've worked with had spectacular senses of humour. I like to think that we're pretty good as well. But as a result, we've come up with 2 separate categories. Schultzy, if you're happy to move on to this kind of thing.
Yeah, mate.
The first one, we often say carton. Obviously, it was a drinking culture, but it was more so an informal debrief process at the end of the day. And to me, I think it was a very effective way of blowing off steam. Lots of dark humour, as you can imagine. So as a result, we've sort of come up with 2 little things for the podcast. The first one we have is every week we like to come up with a carton of the week. Basically, here in Australia, and I know in the UK as well, you can buy a box of beer. That's a carton of the week. And the other one that we have is we've got one of the listeners on the podcast. He makes his own barbecue sauce, so American slow style barbecue. He's come up with his own sauce, and he wanted a positive spin. He didn't want it to be negative. He said, no. I want you to give a bottle of sauce to someone who's come up and done something above and beyond. So we called it the extra sauce on the burger. Basically, someone who's gone above and beyond what their duties are in any of first responder. It doesn't matter, ambulance, so paramedics, police, fire, whatever it is. So, Ben, if you don't mind, I know we put you on the spot, but firstly, can you come up with a carton of the week, which is something that's gone wrong, not a criminal matter, but where someone's made a mistake, made a faux pas, something's gone wrong, and it's more embarrassing for them than anything else. Not where they've broken the law, but basically where, well, they might have broken it, mine, who knows, but basically a piss take, if you will.
Oh, God, yeah, I put me on the spot, haven't you? I've probably got... Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have a little think about that.
Because, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little think about that because there's probably, and I probably have to be careful what I say as well.
Oh, you've got to be careful,
yeah. You don't have to mention names or places, but yeah, no, it is a bit of a tricky one. I think last week we actually just said what was it, a selfie, and the people in the know.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, oh God, I'm just trying to think that there are some silly things people have done in uniform.
I
don't know what else to say. There are some silly things people have done with uniform on, taking pictures, half naked. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, you've sort of gone there. If you're taking pictures in uniform half naked, that's a carton. So if that was you, fair enough.
I've heard that, yeah.
Some examples we've had is people failing to secure the rear of a police cage. So we just have Toyota Hilux vehicles up there with steel cage with basically tarpaulin around the side. We've had people fail to secure that, and someone else has just come and opened the door and their prisoners run away. All kinds of things. Just stupid human things that go wrong.
Yeah.
Leaving bits of equipment, having your taser handed in at the front counter because it came off your belt and you didn't realise. Things like that. Like that happens.
Yeah, I mean it does. And people lose their batons, they lose their cuffs, and it's we joke about it, but it does happen, doesn't it? It does happen.
Yeah,
gets into the wrong hands.
Well, the couple of the times that there's been major issues, things like that, they've actually been handed in by a good Samaritan. Someone's come to the front counter of a police station and gone, "I'm pretty sure this belongs to you guys because I know we're not allowed to have them." Like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah.
Probably in the UK, it'd be sold on eBay.
Yeah, well. I'm sure there's still some good folk in the UK.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, dear.
No, Ben, that's fantastic. And look, this has been great. Thanks very much for coming on. It's really good
it's been great.
Yeah, to get someone from a different nation. Sorry, Schultzy.
Yeah, we've got to do the extra sauce on the burger. So this one should be an easier one. Who would you like to call out that's gone above and beyond in the job, done something just, a bit more than what's required in the job? We'll send him a box of sauce.
Oh my goodness! Again, God, these are two really hard questions you guys are throwing me out today. because there are so many people. There are so many people that go above and beyond. Every single day in policing. I couldn't name it down to one. That's really sad. I literally, and this is what one of the whole things we talked about on this is that people go above and beyond this job every single day, and I see it countless days. How proud I am of all of them. And my team, have dealt with some of the most horrendous things lately of supporting staff that have dealt with horrendous incidents. And they go above and beyond and work weekends and extra shifts to support people that are in crisis. So, I mean, I want to call out my team because they don't go to the jobs, but they deal with all the cumulative trauma and secondary trauma, vicarious trauma of listening to everybody that have been to these jobs. And we've had some horrendous jobs lately, and they have gone above and beyond by supporting and caring those members of staff. So I want to call out my wellbeing team.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, we might have to send a few sauces over.
We'll send a few bottles over, yeah. And Big Camo will be happy to know that he's moved into the UK.
Yeah, that's right.
if it gets through customs, we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Which barbecue season it? Everyone's got it, but we've had a heat wave for the last few weeks. So
well, that's
everyone's
right.
having barbecues. So,
There you go.
sauce is good.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you
it's,
better get there quick then.
absolutely perfect. No, that's really good.
Mate,
Thanks,
there's
guys.
just one more thing we've got to go on. We've got to, so basically we've got a question from a guy that's about to come out of the college and what to expect the first few months on the road. So Damo, we'll get Ben, we'll get you to talk about it, but Damo, do you want to just give us some idea of, I know we've spoken about it before, but just give a quick overview of your experience.
So we're talking Northern Territory Police. He's about to come out of the Northern Territory Police College.
Yep.
Yep. All right. What I'm going to do, because I know the answer's the same, I'm going to flick it straight to Ben. As a new recruit coming out of a police academy or college, what should they expect straight off the road?
Really good question. So is that they're going to go into the tutorship phase? I imagine, is it probably the same? They come out of training school, they're tutored for a period of time?
Yep.
Kind of. Not as formally. Not as formally. They come out and they will hit the road as an operational member. They will have a senior partner, so they will be supervised. However, they won't be with what I know other jurisdictions in Australia call a field training officer. They won't have that. They will have a senior partner.
Okay.
That's basically it.
I think a sense of humour, be open-minded, and be careful of the shock, because what they're going to see, they're going to be shocked. They're going to be used to training school, that environment, that safe environment, and then you're going to go into the unknown. We're going to see things that you probably never imagined you're going to see. So I think just be kind to yourself. If you're struggling, ask for help. That's one of the biggest messages I would say. If you're struggling with workload, if you're struggling with what you're seeing, shout up.
Yeah.
That's because that's where I see the biggest thing. People coming out, they think they've got to make an impression. They think they've got to be, I've got the uniform on, I'm a cop now, and no one can see I'm struggling. Why? You haven't got to prove anything to anybody. You're still going to be a great cop. You've got a great future ahead of you. But if you hide it, that's where you're going to struggle, and that's when you're going to come unstuck. So all I'd say is have a sense of humour, be open-minded, ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for help if you're struggling. That's what I would say the biggest takeaway for me is.
See, I passed on for a reason. One more thing that I will add to that is that if you feel like a complete fool, every other police officer who has ever gone before you felt exactly the same way, unless they are completely delusional about their own abilities.
Yeah.
I felt when I first left the college, I felt that if I just went home, these guys could actually get on with their job and I wouldn't be holding them back because they have to explain everything to me. And I remember feeling really stupid. That's everybody.
Ask questions.
Yeah,
Keep asking
absolutely.
questions. Keep asking questions. It doesn't matter how many times you ask, until you get it right. And people want to help you. That's the thing. People want to help you have a successful career. And that's, keep asking questions, keep learning, never be afraid of learning. And every day is a new day. And if you make a mistake, tomorrow's a new day. You learn from it, you move on and speak up. I think they're the key things.
Yeah, definitely. And just to touch on that, Damo, that's exactly right. And look, the people, your senior partner will expect to have to train you and teach you how to do that. So don't think you're a burden. And you're exactly right, Damo. I felt exactly the same way. If I just went home, they'd be far more efficient. But the only way you get efficient is through learning and asking questions. So you're going to get thrown in the deep end. Like you said, Ben, you're going to see things that you can't imagine you would see. So also seek help. If you're overloaded with your work, ask for help, because it doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're learning.
100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
Remember, it's a uniform. It's not a super suit.
yeah, that's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. We're not robots, are we?
No.
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 Yeah, so I think that's just about it. And Ben,
thank you, guys.
for giving up your time for coming on, mate. It's an absolute.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. It's been brilliant talking to you guys. Like we said, the similarities are insane. But
Same.
Same job, just hundreds of miles away. But it's really interesting to sort of see your side of it as well. But I think I hope that that those who listen have got a bit of an idea of where we are in policing now, certainly in the UK, but I hope, within Australia, within terms of well-being, it can move forward as it is here, because it's needed. And like I said, I ended with this, you can't just have well-being as a slogan on the poster on the toilet door. It's got to factor into everything we do in policing. If these guys and girls are going to have successful careers, they've got to be cared for, they've got to be looked after, and we've got to include well-being in everything we do.
Yeah. Well, perfect. I think one of the joy is, Ben, there's a lot of police that actually listen to this, even high-ranking officers over here in Australia, and just to hear what you've experienced and what you guys are doing, I think might be important and might plant a bit of a seed on how they can do it better over here as well.
I hope so. If there's senior leaders, you set the culture. That's why I say you set the tone, you set the culture. If you can make your teams feel psychologically safe, then you've made huge leaps. And that's what the thing is. And then to any supervisors, all I say is keep checking on your staff. Please don't. That's your job. Checking on your staff, because they're the ones that do the job for you. If you've got to keep them healthy, keep them safe, just check in. And everybody, just check on each other. Just be kind. In a world that's really, really tricky right now, kindness is free. Let's just all check in on each other and look after each other.
Geez, Ben, settle down. You're going to put us out of a job. No, too good. So, Ben,
thank you guys.
It's been a pleasure. Excellent. Stay on for a while. We'll have a chat offline. But, yeah, what do you reckon, Schultzy? That'll probably wrap us up.
Mate, I think so. And, yeah, again, thank you. It's been absolutely fantastic actually talking for someone from a different country and seeing how it's so unique. Oh, well, not unique, but the same as us. So yeah, that's fantastic. But to all our listeners, thanks for listening in. If you've got any questions for Ben, don't worry, we can definitely pass them on to him. Maybe you want to move over to the UK to be a police officer over there. I'm sure he can give you some advice in relation to that, since we've stolen so many from them. But we'll keep you updated and keep the questions coming in. But other than that, mate, I reckon it's about time to sign off, Damo.
All the best.